You're listening to the Heart of Giving podcast with Art Taylor, powered by bbbgive.org. Here we explore the motivations that form the basis of giving and service. We inspire generosity and celebrate the transformative effects that giving and service have on the human spirit and on community. The conversations featured on the podcast also uncover giving strategies that educate and provide tools to help listeners make impactful gifts of both their time and money. We hope you enjoy this episode.
This is the Heart of Giving podcast, powered by bbbgive.org. Give.org is the nation's standards-based charity evaluator, and it's your one-stop source for information on giving and reports on the most asked about charities. I'm Art Taylor. Well, on this show, we talk about all forms of giving and nonprofit organizations that are doing good in the community and people who are contributing in any way that they can to make the world and their communities a little bit better than when they got there. Well, today we're going to get into a particular type of giving and community development that occurs through the good offices of community foundations. And today, we're going to be speaking with the CEO of the Community Foundation for Northern Virginia, and that is my good friend, Renee Byng Yancey. Renee, welcome to the Heart of Giving podcast.
Hi there, Art, and thank you so much for the invitation and the opportunity to discuss a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is the joy of community foundations and community-based philanthropy.
Well, Renee, it's fantastic to have you here. And, we go back a long way. Well, you started working when you were like 3 years old. So.
That's very kind.
You go back a long way. We go back a long way to our days in Philadelphia when we were connected to a great organization called OIC, and we were doing job training work, you in Philadelphia and me at the national office around the country. And I was always impressed by your professionalism and your dedication to creating better communities. And you've done that now through a whole variety of organizations, which I want to talk some about, that has led you to where you are today. So, to get us started, let's get into some of that past career experience that you've had that has built you into this professional today. You were at the Philadelphia Urban League too at one point, right?
I certainly was. That was my very first role in the nonprofit sector after I had spent close to a decade of my early career working in banking in Philadelphia, my hometown. And I had made the very conscious decision a long, long time ago in the mid 1990s. I can't do that math any longer. And I knew that I wanted to give back and build my career in a different way and do good while doing well simultaneously. And so I ventured into the Urban League of Philadelphia offices. It was at my mother's urging. She said, you're looking for a career change. You should check out the Urban League. And I did. And I was hired initially as an executive assistant to the president and CEO. And shortly into my tenure, he said to me, "Hey, what do you think about tennis tournaments?" And I thought, well, I play a little bit, not very well. He says, "I'd like for you to run our celebrity 5-day tennis tournament." I didn't know a thing about sports fundraising, but he believed in me and gave me that opportunity. And that was how my career in fundraising began, which was what I had really wanted to do. And it was that first step into building what's been a great career, a highly circuitous path through many twists and turns in a happy way But I look at those stackable experiences as building to where I am now. But it was without that first experience at the Urban League and the early career experiences in banking that taught me about management and leadership and how to comport oneself in the workplace and working with teams and working with communities, that those early experiences, I still take those lessons with me today.
Wow, that's great. Well, one of the places you worked was the Council on Foundations.
Yes.
And I got to just stop there for just a minute because it is really because of the former CEO at the Council on Foundations that I have the job that I'm in today. And when I left OIC, I was looking for some other opportunities, and I was on the board of the independent sector. So was Dot,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
reached out to Dot and said, I'm looking to get back into the nonprofit world. I was doing some venture capital work, working for a venture capital firm, and she said, I heard about this job opening at the BBB. They're looking for a CEO of their newly merged organization that connected the National Charities Information Bureau with the BBB's Philanthropic Services Institution, and they connected these up to create the BBB Wise Giving Alliance. Well, they're looking for their first CEO. I think you'd be great for that. I'm going to put your name in. Also, what's interesting is that she found out about this job from a man who has been now a 20 plus year friend, former retired General Alfonso E. Lenhart, who was also
Yes.
the first African American to serve as the Sergeant at Arms for the United States Senate.
Yes.
And as you know, Al was an employee, he was the Chief Operating Officer
Yes.
at the Council on Foundations.
Yes.
You'll also find it interesting that I had an interview last week with Gloria Johnson Cusack, who was a Council on Foundation employee. And here's another one. The former chair of my board, Shar Mollison,
Oh my
was
goodness.
an employee at the Council on Foundations. So I know all of these people at the Council on Foundations or who spent time at the Council on Foundations. You would think that I am a very wealthy person because of all of these foundation connections that I have, but I'm not. But tell me about your time at the Council on Foundations.
So I was living in Washington State at the time, working at the time for a community foundation serving Southwest Washington. So that theme of philanthropy and that thread continued in my career. And I was ready to return to the East Coast, closer to family, and pursue opportunities in the Washington, D.C. area. So around 2007, I began to put feelers out, and I saw this awesome opportunity with the Council on Foundations. So I joined the team, reporting to the CEO, leading the council's diversity efforts. They were really at the forefront of that work as a large trade association, if you will, and as a leader within philanthropy. So it was just such a juicy opportunity. I packed up a moving truck and headed across the country and joined the council. So each of those names you referenced, Art, who were influential in your career and in your friend network and colleague network, those are all names of individuals who predated me, but their contributions both to the philanthropic sector, to the broader profession, and to the council and its maturity and its growth are long still felt within the organization. So I've met many of those individuals and owe a debt of gratitude to them as well, because they helped us to get you within the nonprofit sector, but also their contributions to the philanthropic sector. So I was with the Council on Foundations for close to 10 years, a little over close to 8 years, I would say. And what I loved about that opportunity was it was national in focus. It was every form of philanthropy. So for a nerdy student like me who just loves and seeks information and likes to learn and enjoys meeting people, I had access to private philanthropy, community foundations, corporate philanthropy, family foundations, and other forms of giving. So as my career progressed at the council, I stepped into broader roles. I took on greater responsibility, and my career experiences really grew over time. One of the very proud moments I have of my time with the Council on Foundations was I was the founding director of a program that still exists today, known as the Career Pathways Program. And it's a leadership preparation program for individuals who were pursuing or considering executive level roles within foundations. And the program has a long-standing, beautiful history of the participants, now this stellar alumni network, many of whom have now gone on to become CEOs of some of our nation's largest, finest, and most impactful foundations. And, you know, in those full circle moments, if you will, the vice president of grants and community leadership at the Community Foundation for Northern Virginia is an alum of the program. And I thought, oh, how awesome is this, that something that came as an idea, I pitched the idea, conducted the research, sought out the funding, the seed funding to launch the program, instituted a business model, and it still thrives today. And so it's been a bit of a reunion returning to philanthropy and now at the helm of the Community Foundation for Northern Virginia, because this special walk down memory lane has just been, really more than I could imagine, that so many friends and colleagues have remained in the profession of philanthropy, and we've reconnected. So I feel like I put commas at the ends of conversations from more than a decade ago, and we've just simply picked up on conversations that were in place. So that's been a fun part of the new role.
Well, that's great. Well, let's talk for a minute about community foundations, because some people, understand them, but a lot of people aren't really clear about what a community foundation is. Some people who you would be really surprised, frankly, I found out that some people had no idea what a community foundation was, and they were actually offered a position to work in one. I'm like, you didn't know what a community foundation does? So I don't want to make the assumption anymore that people who even should know what they are. Give us a thumbnail sketch of what we're talking about when we say a community foundation.
Sure thing. So one of the great things about community foundations is there are over 900 of them around the country. And there are community foundations in other parts of the world also, but let's focus here in the U.S. And we are public charities, and we serve a specific geographic region. And so I referenced a moment ago some private foundations as an example. So unlike a large private foundation or a smaller family foundation where it's one individual or family or a source of income from a corporation or an entity, community foundations are inherently connected to the community. So it's many families and many individuals who have brought their resources together for a charitable purpose. And so we manage those charitable funds on behalf of those individuals and families, ranging from their grant making to managing the investments, community leadership programs. And it's what I think is most special about community foundations is at all giving levels you can be involved, and that deep knowledge of the community that we serve. And for the Community Foundation for Northern Virginia, as the name suggests, we cover the swath of Northern Virginia across Alexandria, Arlington, Falls Church, Prince William County, Fairfax County, parts of Loudoun and Prince William County. So we are an expansive geographic area, and that deep community knowledge is inherent. So that's at the high level, what a community foundation does, and what I get to do and leap out of bed every day to lead.
That's awesome. Now, when we think about the issues in Northern Virginia in particular, are there issues that you're taking on at your community foundation, or are people sort of free to create funds for particular needs that may exist in their own minds?
It's a blend, and what makes that really especially appealing is needs change over time, and donor interests may change over time. So through both our research, our knowledge of the community, we're community-based. We're very soon to celebrate our 50th anniversary in 2028. We were founded in 1978, and we are a broad-based funder, so ranging from topics such as managing scholarship funds or educational pursuits, the environment, the arts, social safety net programs. We span across a range of donor interests and community need. And this role of a community foundation, I often describe us as a super connector. So we connect donors with community needs and interests. So we're raising money from the community to direct it to those places where there is the greatest need. Now, there are also charitable funds that donors will house within the community foundation, and they may have their own family interests and individual giving needs, and they often will also confer with the community foundation to better understand where those needs are, whether they're giving locally, nationally, or internationally. We're well equipped to work with them for all of their giving and investment needs in the community.
Now, do you do this part, the part focused on individuals and families, through donor advised funds? Because we hear a lot about donor advised funds, and you worked in a bank at one point. Banks are taking on these funds quite aggressively, and we see lots of growth there. But I think community foundations are doing this too. Are you guys involved in that also?
We absolutely are. So, donor advised funds are a part of the types of charitable instruments that a donor may decide works best for them or their individual or a family needs. And also, entities could consider donor advised funds. That's one of our many tools in the toolbox, if you will. Designated funds, agency funds, I reference scholarship funds, but yes, donor advised funds are a central offering and often very appealing for donors and supporters. There are commercial gift funds who offer a similar service to their account holders and their clients. What differentiates a differentiating factor of a community foundation is that embeddedness within a community and deep community knowledge, as well around grant making needs. One area I'd love to share a little bit more about is a few years ago, the Community Foundation established a Center for Research and Data Insights known as Insight Region. And we have covered a range of topics from housing to youth to mental wellness and across a range of other research topics. And what we see as our role in our leadership role in the community is to shine a bright spotlight on community-based issues. And it's illuminating for many members of our community because often there is this perspective that Northern Virginia doesn't have community-based needs, and we know that that is not the case. And so through our convening power, through discussions, through convenings and meetings, we're able to lift up this research, share it out, and then to help donors make more informed decisions about their giving interests and the needs in the community. That, again, that super connector role.
I see. So when I think of a community foundation, I also think of a a core where revolving around it is many institutions, nonprofits that are doing work that may also benefit from your existence as a convener as well as a funder. Is that one of the roles you provide?
It absolutely is. And the way you framed that question, I know that one, you've done your homework, and two, you're very familiar with the way we conduct business. And an example I will use for our grantees, we offer capacity building resources and training for them. And it also is an opportunity for our nonprofit community to showcase their work as donors get better educated about the kinds of programs and resources being offered in the nonprofit community. Just this week, we launched a successful conversation where we brought donors from across the Commonwealth. So, not just in Northern Virginia, through our networking power, we brought in donors who had interest in funding for the environment. And we highlighted a great nonprofit organization who could help to educate on this complex topic. So, if a donor or supporter has an interest in a topic, but may not quite know how to cut through all of the various research reports or considerations that they might make about where their contribution and where their philanthropy could be most impactful, that helps both the donor and the nonprofit organizations, because a better informed donor is good for business, it's good for the nonprofit sector, and to help them tell their story as well. And we also leverage our own platforms, our communications vehicles, to feature through video and through impact stories and features about the nonprofit sector. So that gives them a boost and more elevation and creating awareness about the great work they're doing.
Amazing. When you go about getting people to make a gift, is it also on the table that they can just give to a general support or general fund within the community foundation, or do they need to have a particular program in mind?
They can do both, and we do encourage donors to both consider the strength of the community foundation for the long haul. And so through supporting operations, that allows the community foundation team, and we run lean and mean with us, solid ratings from the various charity rating services. And what we're really proud about is that leanness, that ability to be agile and steward the resources effectively and with care and due diligence. But yes, donors can opt to have a fund for a longer haul and also support basic needs of the foundation. In order for us to be strong and to have the ability to do the philanthropy work, we also have to raise resources for our own stability and ability to operate.
So, Renee, you said you started in 1978, coming up on 50 years. A lot of things have changed over that time. How has time changed the needs and opportunities that exist within a community foundation, and particularly yours? And what are some of the things that, I wouldn't say keep you up at night, but maybe some of the things that you're concerned about?
Yeah, so I think that storytelling aspect is vital. The ability to get your message out, but there are a lot of messages out there simultaneously competing for people's attention. That's an area that we, working with a stellar vice president of marketing and events, really calling in on that storytelling ability. The acceleration of the use of technology. Listen, we work in a high touch environment, and I know there are ways to leverage those technology tools without losing that personalized attention and touch. So, always seeking that balance so that it is efficient for our supporters, where they can pick up their phone and secure the services they need, but that there is that relationship on the other side of that phone, if you will. And I think, as I reference the research needs and understanding and helping to educate our donors, our community, about community need. And I would be remiss if I didn't in some way reference this general state of social trust and where we are as a society. And one of our most recent research efforts was on that topic of social trust. And we convened around that topic and the importance of an engaged community as you consider future census efforts. Voting, we're a nonpartisan organization, but we do fully believe in get out the vote and civic participation and the engagement of our younger, earlier career professionals to be involved with giving. Sometimes there is a perception of, oh, philanthropy, it's out of reach for me, but that's not the case. And through giving circles and other forms of giving, there is a place for everyone at every level at the Community Foundation for Northern Virginia. And we want to amplify that message as much as possible. And that is, part of the reason that I was just so honored that I was invited and our foundation was invited to participate today to be able to amplify that message and to share and spread that good news.
Well, it's certainly our pleasure to be able to get the story out some. You mentioned trust. I want to pick that theme up a little bit because we've seen lots of surveys over the years that indicate people don't trust institutions in much the same way as they used to. And I always say it's nothing new going on in the organizations. We've always had issues, but maybe we're able to see or hear about the challenges that go on a lot more than we did before. And so people are responding to what they're seeing now, even though those things may have existed in the past and maybe even worse back then. But they're real. So, if people are concerned, it could affect the way they give to institutions. And I'm part of something called the Generosity Commission. And we've been looking into this whole issue of the declining number of people participating in donating to charities. And it's been pretty stark over the last 20 odd years. How do you think community foundations can play a role in changing the trajectory of people giving to institutional nonprofits?
Well, our network is important and our convening power being leveraged for good and for those purposes of building social trust. We sit at this really interesting intersection, Art, as a community foundation. So we have the public sector, we have the nonprofit sector, we have individuals and families and businesses right all together. And so, as a neutral convener and as an entity who has a trusted relationship and a reputation in the community, we use as much of our social capital as we can for those purposes, accelerating the good in a community. And so our program efforts speak to that. Our ability to bring reviewers, volunteer reviewers, into the grant application review process helps to educate donors and understand where those, both where the needs are, but the good work that the nonprofit organizations are doing. We have an upcoming event known as the People's Supper, and it is an opportunity to provide a level of capacity building for individuals to have thorny conversations and work through differences. Listen, we see division in people's own families. They can't have these conversations. So we see an opportunity for the Community Foundation for Northern Virginia, with all of the goodwill that it has built up over nearly a 50-year history, to bring people together in these kinds of formats for conversation, for dialogue, for exchange of ideas. And by presenting valid, trusted research that doesn't have an agenda other than to shine the spotlight on the need, that we think is going to be additive to the conversation. And listen, we're all around this community in Northern Virginia. We are, from the nonprofit entity providing the direct service, to the halls of Congress, to corporations, to high capacity donor homes and workplaces and places where we meet and visit. So we have this panoramic view of the community that we can share and amplify that information for community knowledge and community good.
Yeah, that's great. I chair the board of an organization called Convergence Policy, which is working with people across difference to solve problems. And we don't often hear about bridging opportunities like this, where you get people together who are very different in their ideologies and how they see a particular issue, and actually thinking they could actually work together to achieve something. So I'm really happy to hear that you see part of your role as a community foundation to bring people together and to have these tough conversations, and maybe to listen and learn from each other, rather than simply stay in our tribes or our filter bubbles and point fingers at the other side and sit at home thinking that nothing really can be done unless we defeat them. So, I'm really happy to hear that the Community Foundation is doing that. And I would say that nonprofits in general have a tremendous opportunity to lead in this way. Because in most of our organizations, we have people of all stripes, and yet they work together to achieve a mission. And wouldn't it be great if they could begin holding up their diversity and the way they are able to bring people together to solve problems, and show, our world that it's not as bad as what you think it is. People are actually doing things to come together to solve problems and build community. So I just thought I would mention that, Renee.
That's well said, Art. And thank you for the work that you're doing and leading to spread that message and to equip individuals with those types of tools so that we can be in dialogue. I love the concept of, let's figure out where we can agree, and then we can continue to move from there. We're not going to agree on everything, and that's okay. I respect your view and your perspective, but if we can hold at center the benefit of the community and the improvement of the community, our vision statement for the Community Foundation for Northern Virginia is to help build a community that works for everyone. And everyone means everyone. And that was one of the mission statement and the vision and the strategic plan were big selling points for me about why I wanted to affiliate with the Community Foundation for Northern Virginia. I had been working nationally since the early 2000s, and the opportunity to now be re-embedded into my local community, sharing insights, learning from the community, growing with the community was just an incredible gift, and I'm grateful for it every day, to now have this ability to be in my local community, to see folks at a local restaurant or the grocery store, and we can be in dialogue and conversations, or on my morning run or walk, to actually see folks who live and work and love and play and learn in this community and care about its future.
Well, listen, Renee, they are lucky to have you, and
Thank you.
you are perfect for this. So you could be doing a lot of things, but I think that they have a real gem in you, and that community is going to benefit tremendously from your contribution. So I commend them for making a good decision to give you this role, and they can just watch out for all of the great things that you're going to do.
Well, thank you, Art. I'm humbled to be here and to serve in this way. And I thank you for your partnership and friendship over many, many years. And it's
Mm,
so great to be reconnected in this way. So thank
great.
you.
Well, to anyone who is listening to our show for the first time, this is a weekly podcast, and this is episode number 204. We've been doing it for 204 straight weeks. And if you want to continue to hear these shows as they come out, I hope you will subscribe. You can find the audio version on any major podcast platform. And the video is going to be posted on the BBB Wise Giving Alliance YouTube page where you can see that. So please subscribe there as well. If you want to support the Wise Giving Alliance, you can do that by going to give.org, and we will make good use of your gift. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you back here next week.
You've just listened to the Heart of Giving podcast with Art Taylor. Be sure to tune in next time for a brand new episode. To listen to our other interviews, visit heartgiving.podbean.com. That's heartgiving.podbean.com. Subscribe to our show on major podcast platforms. The thoughts and opinions expressed on this podcast are the views and opinions of the guests, not those of the BBB Wise Giving Alliance or program affiliates. This podcast is for information and educational purposes only and is copyrighted with all rights reserved. This podcast is protected by Podbean's terms of service.